everybody, I'm Christine, owner of CREATE98, for those of you who haven't met me before, and we've got lots of new people this week, so that's brilliant to see, thank you very much. Might be approaching our peak, I think it's 75 of you right now, so bear with us if it's taken us a little while to get your delivery to you. But anyway, this is all about flowers, isn't it? We just love flowers, Stephen and I, who you're going to see in a sec as he comes to do the demo. Lots of good feedback still, Stephen, thank you very much about your demos. In fact, loads of great feedback all round, you know, what colours you like, what colours you'd rather we didn't use, and what you like to make. So keep that feedback coming and we will build in as much as we can to our planning things that you all want to do. So, with no further ado, I'll hand right over to Stephen to get on with this week's demo.
Hello everybody, my name's Stephen. I'll be doing your demo for you today. As Christine said, welcome along to all those new people and welcome back again to all those that have been with us already. It is such a nice feeling, I know I've said this before, but it's so lovely to know that there's so many people out there that love flowers as much as we do. Anyway, today we're going to be making a really informal summer arrangement. We're using a glass vase which is available on the CREATE98 website. You might want to choose something of a similar size and scale to work with at home. So something with a wide base that's not too wide a neck to work with, so your flowers aren't going to lean out too much. Now we're going to use the same technique that we used a couple of weeks ago. So those that are joining us again from previous weeks, we're going to do the same tape technique, but please, instead of keeping the tape on, please make sure you remove your tape, give your vase a good clean, and then it's ready to retape again. So for those that haven't done this for the first time, what I've done already, and I urge you to do the same, is make sure you've got a nice clean vase to work from and get it filled up with plenty of fresh clean water ready to go. We're going to take a grid system across the top of our vase, which is going to act as a support for our stems. It's a lot easier to fill up the vase before you put the tape on rather than trying to feed water in between your bits and pieces of tape. So you've all got a reed of pot tape included in your kits. So as I say, we're going to build a grid system across the top of our vase. And as I said when we did this previously, it's a bit like those old-fashioned rose bowls. So you're building up a little system of holes where you're going to poke your stems in, and they're going to act as a framework to build up your arrangement. So I'm going to tape across like so, and just securing it at each end onto the rim of your vase. So if you're using this vase at home, I've done 5 strips across there, just to give you a bit of an idea. And I'm going to do the same in the opposite direction. This really is a good tip for spreading the flowers out a little bit further actually, you know, spacing things out easier. I think sometimes we've all received hand-tied bouquets maybe in the post, or bought those supermarket bunches and you just kind of cut them in and shove them in and they all kind of lean to one side. And you know, it's a nice little tip for spreading out that arrangement of that bunch of flowers. I'm going to get 5 across again. 4. 5. And then just to finish off, just to neaten those edges, just for an extra bit of security, I'm going to run the tape just around the top of the vase. Right, so it just neatens it up and it holds all those bits of tape in place. There you have your completed vase ready to go. So that's that all prepped and ready to go. Now I'm going to talk through what flowers you have in your bucket this week. I'll talk about varieties and how to condition them all. So starting off with foliage, we have got the lovely soft ruscas, which is just such a perennial favourite for all flower ranges. It really is the best sort of training foliage. It's got that lovely arch to it, which we're really going to emphasise in our arrangement. So I'm just going to take those bottom leaves off good to line things up against your vase. I'll bring my vase in again here. You're thinking if that's going to hit the bottom of the vase, then we'll make sure everything that's going into the vase is clear. And just cutting those stems. Don't take too much off. As I always say, it's much easier to cut a little bit each time than it is to try and add a bit on. If you cut too much off or strip your stem too low. They're ready to go. I'm just going to cut the stems of those. That's the soft ruscus. Then we've got this lovely ornamental oak we have today, which I really love. It's a really great, it's got a lot of movement to it. It's a very natural feel to it. A lot of foliages that we buy, especially commercially grown, are very formal, very rigid. And I really like this one because it's got a nice, you can see that arc to the stem, and we're going to try and use that in our arrangements. Again, I'm not going to condition too much of this off, because I think with these stems, excuse me out of shot there, I think I'm going to have a snip at them and try and use as much of it as possible. So I'm just going to cut those ends for now.
Cleaning it.
Yeah, cleaning the bottom of the stems. You might notice with the oak and also with the soft ruscus, some of the stems have got a little bit of almost like a dust on them. I think where it's grown outside, there's just a little bit of sort of residue left on those leaves. So you might want to give them a little spray under the tap or wipe them with a damp cloth or a bit of cotton wool just to clean those stems up a little bit. That's the oak ready to go. Now we've got, I know every time I do a video I say this is my favourite, but I really do love tuberose. So you might not recognise it as a cut flower. I would say most definitely you'll recognise the fragrance. It's used ever such a lot in scented candles, perfumes, colognes. It's the best, absolute best. I had them everywhere on my wedding day, and I always associate the smell of my wedding. It really is. Might not be my favourite looking flower, but the smell is just phenomenal. So it's really nice to bring something with fragrance to you. Nothing to condition here on the stem, so just a cut of the end. So when we cut our stems, we always cut on a 45-degree angle for two reasons, really. Firstly, it's to create a wider surface area as possible on the bottom of that stem, so it's going to take up the maximum amount of water when it's in the vase. And secondly, when you're inserting your flower into the vase, if you've got a flat bottom, that flat bottom's going to sit right at the bottom of your vase and it's not going to be able to access any water. So by creating that angle, it's still going to be able to drink even if it's hitting the bottom of the vase. So that's the tuberose, ready to go. Next we have campanula, or Canterbury bells you might know this as, a great summer border flower. Again, I'm not going to condition too much of this off. Now this really is a good vase life on this one, and all these little buds will open up. You might want to please do bear in mind when you get these flowers have just arrived this morning, and I do say this every time, but they've not had too much to drink. So please, when you get your buckets of flowers, do give them a good cut, get them all conditioned, and maybe give them an hour or so to have a good drink before you start arranging with them. And all those hooked ends will pick up as they've drunk. So a lot of these flowers travel dry in boxes. So that's those conditioned, ready to go. Next we have our carnations. I absolutely love carnations. They're a funny flower, sometimes there's a lot of people that are not so keen on them. There's a lot of different varieties out there. This beautiful variety is called St. Liege, and it's, I just love this colour palette. It's like a caramelly, blushy, pinky, sort of peachy, all mixed into one. It's got a great vase life. You've not got much of a scent, but sometimes you get a really faint clove scent to it. And I think, when we're really looking for those garden varieties and that whole vintage feel, for me there's nothing more vintage than a carnation really, and I just love that big splash of colour in our arrangement. So we've got 3 of those. I've just taken off those lower leaves, so you've got nice clean stems. So when you do your arranging, you don't want any leaves going into where your water is, because the leaves will encourage bacteria to grow in your vase, and that will shorten the lifespan of your flowers. Now, our real stars of the show here are these Miss America peonies, so quite tight at the moment. You can see they're just starting to open, but they're going to give a really big, beautiful bowl-shaped display. A very, very pale blush pink that will probably fade to a white as they open up. So I've just taken those bottom leaves off, again keeping some leaf on the top. The peonies are a really strong foliage, so I like to keep some of the leaf on because that really helps to support the flowers in the stem. So I've taken those bottom leaves off, and then again, like everything else, just cutting everything on that 45-degree angle. We will probably cut again, but it's just nice to have everything freshly cut and ready to go. So they're ready to go. And the last thing we have is our astrantia. I love astrantia. I've got it all over in my back garden. Lots of different colour varieties out there. This is a pale pink. Again, it's got that blushy tint to it. Now this is a classic example of what I was saying about flowers just arriving. This does look very, well, it doesn't look very sad, but it looks a bit floppy. This really will pick up in a few hours time when it's had a good drink. We've literally just unwrapped this morning. So take those stems, nothing to condition again, and just cut the bottoms of it on that 45-degree angle. So that's everything conditioned, ready to go, and so we're ready to start our arrangement. Like with all arrangements of this style, I'd always start with the foliage or with that filler flower to build up your base shape, so it's going to give you a framework to work with. We're going to create something a little bit more informal today. Previously we've done all-round arrangements. Today I'm going to do something that's more front-facing, the sort of thing that you'd want to sit on, on a dressing table or a sideboard, in the hallway. So something's going to sit against a wall, so you have all those flowers that are going to be displayed at the front. We're going to try and create something a bit more asymmetric. So instead of being an all-round low arrangement, I'm going to try and create a bit of height and a bit of texture going on. So let's see how we get along. So I'm going to start with my Sophroniscus. So I'm going to use those taller bits, I think, at the back. Insert those to one side. Now I want to create some different heights going on here to really create a wild, informal look. Instead of everything being the same length, so I'm going to take that stem down a little bit shorter. Insert those in. I mean, things are going to flop around a little bit, your first few stems, but of course, once you get the more flower that you put in, the more everything's going to hold itself up. And I'm going to take this last piece, I've really separated the stem with the most bend to it, and I'm going to put that at the front of our arrangement, so that's going to create an elongated shape. So we're creating almost like an S kind of curve to our arrangement. So we're going to keep it taller here, and it's going to come down at the front. We'll take it a little bit shorter. So once we've got those tall flowers in, that's going to support that a little bit more. So I'm going to add my oak in. So always check when you're putting your flowers in stem, make sure, you can see with that one for instance, make sure those stems are catching the water and not leaning out. And in the back I think. I've got a shorter stem there, which again I think I'm going to add to the front with that bit of Sophroniscus. Oh, I think I can use that really to support that foliage over there. I think there is a bit of trial and error going on with this arrangement style. And I'm just going to put those little short bits in, just to fill in those gaps and support flowers as I insert them. So there we are. There's our foliage in, so now we'll start adding our flowers. Now I think I'm going to go with the campanula first because it's a real chunky flower and its flowers quite low down the stem, so it's really going to help support that shape. Ordinarily we tend to work in odd numbers, 3s, 5s. I think for this style, it seems to be ever popular now, we've gone with a couple of them rather than 3, just to really help that informality, keep it more natural looking, very much more casual. And sometimes I think when you work in odd numbers, 3s, 5s, 7s, you kind of naturally go in for that more formal all-round arrangement. So it just makes it a little bit easier to mix it up a little bit by forcing us into having different stem counts. So I'm putting, like I did with the Sophroniscus, I'm going to create some different heights there. So they're in ready to go. Then I'm going to build in next my tuberose around those stems. I think I'm going to keep this pretty tall at the back. Just a little bit off. I'm going to keep that full length of the stem in there. Find a channel to get it in. That's it. Nice and tall at the back. Stay in there. Try the next one a lot, I think. That's better. And then I'm just going to take the other two a little bit shorter and kind of stagger it down a bit like a spiral staircase. You know the way those stems sort of bring them down in that kind of formation, the way the steps would on a spiral staircase. That's how I always think about it anyway. So sort of tear them down. So that one's going to be a little bit shorter. Put that in somewhere here. And then bring the shorter one towards the front. Like so. So they're in. Now I think I'm going to add the peonies in next because although they're quite small at the moment, they really are going to open out and create a big display. So you want to make sure there's plenty of space in the arrangement for them to open up. I want to concentrate, because we're doing a front facing arrangement, I'm going to concentrate the peonies and the carnations in that front so they're nice and visible in the display. So I think that's going to open up sort of this size once it's fully bloomed. As you can see, as I go along, I always try and use my vase as a gauge of where to cut my stem. So plenty of space around there for them to open up. I think I'm going to pop this estrangio in next, just to weave in between those gaps. One in there. Quite long, I think, and that in there, in between my tuberose and my campanula. Water. And this one I think I'm going to tuck in the front. So as you can see, as I'm building up, really concentrating on some different heights and a lot more informality, I'm not sure what one's the right word in the arrangement style. And really keeping it a lot looser and a little bit more fluid. So just to echo those staggering of stems, I'm going to bring that carnation right at the back here. Like that. And this one here. Can't wait to get your tuberose. It's such a terrific smell, and you're definitely very popular in Diptyque and Jo Malone, all those luxury brands. It smells absolutely heavenly. I'll bring that last carnation in somewhere around this side, I think. There. A bit of titillating. I'm just going to turn it around so I can see it from my direction. I'm really happy with that. Especially when those peonies pop open, they're really going to transform that arrangement. So there we go. There's your completed vase arrangement. When you have a go at home, please remember, if you take some pictures of your work, remember to tag us on social media using the hashtag #DoorstepFlowerSchool and to tag CREATE98. Also, you might want to have a go at making a little video. Great to share with us as well. We love to see your work. And again, as Christine said at the beginning, if you've got any ideas, any suggestions, colourways, particular colours or particular flowers that you really love, you'd like us to use, give us a shout and we'll do our best to incorporate them in our next Flower School in a couple of weeks' time. Enjoy and we'll see you soon.